Now, you'll see that we've been joined by Nedbank Private Wealth Senior Credit Specialist Chirag Patel, who's been having a look at borrowing and the financial options available to high net worth clients. Welcome to you, Chirag. Really looking forward to hearing what you've got to say. Now, some interesting things to note there from the Global Residential Index. We're hearing about Dubai as a standout destination, for example. Katie, are we seeing a real exodus? Is that what you're seeing of high net worth individuals to Dubai?
I mean, that's certainly what's been reported in the press, and there's been some research that's been done by, not by us, but by Henley and Partners, who have looked at the sort of flows globally of where those high net worths are going, and certainly the UK is showing a net loss of high net worths. I think they estimated that around 10,000 high net worths left the UK last year, whereas Dubai was one of the beneficiaries and saw a plus there of around 7,000. So yeah, it's possible that some are going to Dubai, certainly as a result of some of the tax changes that we've seen here. London and indeed the UK is certainly not as straightforward. I would say there's a few hurdles for people to work through, and it's working through the detail of how it's going to impact them. Dubai is attractive on a number of levels. And it has seen around 7% growth, as Kelsey was saying. London, on the other hand, prime central London values in 2024 fell by 1.9%. So we're still seeing and feeling the effects of those budget announcements, those tax changes. And it's a sentiment-driven market. So, there's...
As ever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Chirag, is that what you're hearing, what Katie was saying there? Is that the message that's coming through to you?
Yeah, so what we've heard from our clients and what we're seeing more and more of is inquiries of moving abroad. So we've seen a few that have moved to Dubai, but they're also moving to other hotspots. But what we've seen post-budget is the questions being asked, people considering relocating. But like Katie said, it's a slow process for some. They have to think about the wider wealth advice they receive, the tax advice they receive, and then obviously lifting up families and making that big move takes time. But we are being asked on a more regular basis, this is our plans, this is what we're thinking about. But it's a wide variety of destinations. We've recently had a client wanting to move to Australia. Yeah. So it's not only Dubai, but Dubai is a sought after destination.
We're definitely going to be talking about that a bit later, and tips if you are thinking about that, what you should be thinking about, what sort of advice you should be looking at. But Katie, I want to talk about who the buyers are at the moment. Has the profile of those individuals changed recently? Who are they? Where do they come from?
Yeah, so I mean, buyers in prime central London, it's sometimes quite hard to determine exactly how they want to use that property because, it will often be a second home or a home for occasional use. We're talking about the very top echelons of property here and top value bands. And, there are a wide range of reasons why people buy. We're seeing slightly less investment activity. I think that goes across all of the different markets over the last year in this time of incredible volatility. People, especially investors, don't like uncertainty, and they will just hold and withdraw rather than take a punt on it. But for London, we've now seen that prices have adjusted 20% since their previous peak. So their previous peak was in 2014. So there is a possible sort of buying opportunity for when those investors want to come back into the market. But certainly at the moment, there's not a lot of investment purchasing.
And Chirag, have you seen any change in the demographic of the buyers?
Yeah, we've seen domestic buyers drop off over the last 2 years, and the data from Savills will probably suggest that as well. But being an international private bank, we've definitely seen an influx of expats either purchasing for family use, so students or children relocating over here. But we've also seen international buyers wanting to move here. Though fewer numbers, there's still some that want to come to the UK, whether it's employment purposes, whether it's for education. So we are seeing more of those, but that's expected in the times we're in. Last year was uncertain. We had global elections, we had the budget, but there's green shoots now. I think we are returning to some normality, but it will be a slow process. To see the domestic.
We find that different types of buyers tend to go for different properties. So across the second-hand market, it is still predominantly UK buyers. Around half of all of the buyers are from the UK. But then the next biggest group is Western Europeans. And then you have buyers from the US, whereas in the new build market, you still see it predominantly UK buyers, but there's a much higher proportion of international, and you see China, Pacific Asia, and the Middle East being your top other categories outside of UK.
And is there any point looking away from London at what's going on in property as far as international buyers or domestic buyers? Are there any hotspots that we should be aware of?
So outside of London, actually, it is those commutable areas. So around Surrey, Cobham, Weybridge, even Tunbridge Wells, that are seeing. I think they've been the outperformers in the last quarter. So they've seen stronger growth, while prime central London has been falling. They've actually seen slightly, nothing to get too excited about, but slightly more positive growth. And I think it is about people looking for a bit more certainty. Maybe there's something there around the extra cost of VAT on private schools as well.
Yeah.
Thinking about one of those other driving forces as to how people choose where they want to be. And it's also the upsizers who are moving in. They're also able to benefit from those reducing interest rates over time.
The newspapers tend to love stories about sort of Hollywood movie stars moving to the Cotswolds at the moment. Just property pages seem to be full of that. Is that a real thing that's going on, or do you think that's more to fill newspaper columns?
Oh, I don't know too much about the specifics on the Hollywood stars, but what I would say is that some of the areas that have seen a real boost post-pandemic, such as those real hotspots, coastal areas, that they saw a real boom after the pandemic, where everyone wanted a second home in the Cotswolds and other places like that. They're seeing that they're really feeling the pain now that there's additional stamp duty for second homes, and some of these other tax changes that will be impacting them. And also, maybe that moment has gone. People actually have realised that London, we're all pretty much working let's say 4 days a week mostly, and maybe it's not so, thinking about the commutable distance, it's not really working for them. So we're starting to see a little bit of an unwinding of those post-COVID trends.
Addressing that balance, very interesting.
Yeah.
Let's get our crystal balls out. What do we think's coming down the track this year?
Well, this is the third live event I've done, and every time I've got my crystal ball out and nothing's ever come to fruition. So
you're not selling yourself,
Joe. No, I think we're still in unpredictable times. The MPC's meeting today. If we see another base rate cut, will it improve sentiment in the market? I think we're over the worst. Okay, so the elections are over. The budget has been announced. I think this year, as Katie said, we are seeing more buyers. We're seeing more properties come on the market. We're seeing more transactions. The data suggests that quarter four last year was really, really positive. We saw the same within the bank. So I think it's looking better. Will we ever return to, the peak? I think it will take time. It will take time.
Katie, do you agree we're over the worst? That, as you said earlier, quite rightly, it is all about confidence. It's all about sentiment in any market, but particularly in property.
So for in the research team, we do forecasting, and for prime central London, we are expecting a 4% fall this year. And I think most of it is likely to be front loaded, so be likely in the first half of this year. And I think the reason for that is that we need to see that adjustment. We are seeing the transactions, and we were talking about this. We actually also saw a bit of a peak in super prime transactions in December, which is really surprising, especially in light of all of the changes, the tax changes, and the wider sentiment in the market.
What did you put that down to? Do you think, was that a sort of bottleneck from people sitting on their hands and then saying, actually, new year, we now know that what we want to do, we'll just get on with it?
There's no more speculation on what tax is going to be impacting them. They're able to work through what this means for them. And actually, if people have been looking around and they've found a property they like, and at this sort of level, the properties are so unique and special, if someone falls in love with it, they're able to afford it, they'll just want to commit. It's not a market that's restricted by affordability in the same way that those drivers affect the mainstream markets.
Absolutely. Well, a lot of food for thought. Thank you both so much for kicking us off this afternoon and really laying it out there, what's going on in the property market and what to expect in the property market.